What's going on, family? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We about to start in the field. Otros 11 bonitos que veo en San Juan, disfrutando de todas esas cosas que extrañan los que se van, disfrutando de noches de esas que ya no se dan, pero queriendo volver a la última vez. Ya los ojos te miré y contarte las cosas que no te conté. ¿Te parece a mi crush? Y tirarte las fotos que no te tiré. Macho bruto, el lindo, déjame traerte una. Ay, tengo el pecho pelado, me dio una mata. El corazón dándome patas. Dime, baby, ¿dónde tú estás? Pa' llegarle con Roro, Julito, Cristal, Roy, Edgar, Seba, Oscar, Darnell y Big J tocando bata. Hoy la calle la dejamos esparata. Y sería malo que yo me toque el cuido. Yo veo tu nombre y me salen suspiros. No sé si son petardos o si son tiros. All right. What's going on, family? What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Crazy Faith with God in the building, getting ready to drop some quick value for you guys today. And hope you guys are having a blessed, amazing, beautiful Friday. It's nice, it's warm outside today. Hope everybody's enjoying the summertime. It's a beautiful summer. You know, things are being planted, right, and about to receive that harvest, right. So let's dive into it, right. Let's dive straight into this, right. So today's topic is actually going to be some people want the light without putting the sacrifice in to getting the light, right? Some people want the light without putting in the sacrifice in order to get the light, right? So we got to always be mindful of, everything that we have, we got to sacrifice for, right? Every light, every single thing that we've worked on us, we got to sacrifice. We had to work hard in order to get that, right? We had to work super hard in order to get that. We can't just, be the light and live in the dark. It doesn't work like that, right? You got to pick either you're in the light or you're in the dark. But when you see somebody in the light and you choose to stay in the dark, don't get mad, right? Don't get mad. That's your choice, right? You did that, right? And the light is so much better than the dark. I should do a topic on the light and the dark, right? The light is way better than the dark, right? The dark is misery, draining of energy, right? Depletion, unhappiness, sadness, anger, unfulfillment, depression, and sometimes suicide. God forbid, right? And the light, what's the light, right? Energy, light, joy, abundance, peace, power, focus, life, energy, vibrate like a good vibration, right? That's the light, right? That's all God, right? The moment where we lose sight of the light is where it gets nasty, it gets gloomy, it gets unpleasing, right? So we got to be mindful of to stay in the light, right? It's going to take some type of sacrifice. It's going to take some type of commitment, right? You got to be willing to put in the work. You got to be willing to sacrifice. Because if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. If you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. It's big keys right there. That's super big, right? And that goes for me too. Absolutely. Absolutely. 1,000,000%. Right? If I don't sacrifice for what I want becomes a sacrifice. Right? Are we sacrificing for what we want? Or are we sacrificing the sacrifice? Right? We gotta be we got to be aware of this, right? And we got to be also aware of being in the light, right? Being in the light, right? And putting everything under your feet, right? Being in the light, right, is really powerful because once we're in the light, we get to do God's work. We get to transform. We get to change our mindsets into the person God needs us to be. Without that transformation, without being in the light, right, He can't really use us, right? He can't really use us because we're on the other side of the light, right? Darkness and light cannot live together, right? They cannot live together, right? You got to choose to be in the light rather than the dark. And a lot of people want the light without putting the sacrifice in to being in the light. Like, how can you want to be somewhere, right? And you didn't put the sacrifice in to being that person, right? You didn't put the sacrifice in to being the light. You put the sacrifice in to the darkness, right? And that's what you receive. But then when someone's in the light and they blooming and they glooming, you're mad, you're angry, you're hateful, you're revengeful. For what? You chose the dark. It's a choice, right? If you choose to stay in the dark, stay in the dark. If you choose to be in the light, be in the light. You can't play both sides. You can't have two masters, right? I choose God's side, right? No matter how hard it gets, I choose God's side because that's the best way. That's the best way. Any other way is is pretty much nothing, right? Any other way is pretty much depletion, right? Any other way is the enemy, right? So we got to be mindful of this, being in the light and staying in the light, right? Being in the light and staying in the light. How many of us have gone back from the dark to the light, from the light to the dark, from the dark to the light? You can't live, you can't go back and forth because what you're doing is blocking your blessing. When you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you're blocking the blessing. That's like God trying to give you something, right? He's trying to give you something, but you keep turning back, right? Your prize is in front of you, right? But you keep looking backwards. Like, what are you looking backwards for? You can't receive anything going backwards. You can only receive moving forward, right? We can only receive moving forward, right? That's the only way we can receive. And we got to be able to sacrifice. I know the light looks good. I know being in the light feels good, feels amazing, but you can't do both. It doesn't work like that. You got to pick and choose. And I hope you guys choose the light because that's the eternal life, right? So what I want to do is leave you guys with this, right? If you don't sacrifice for what you want, ultimately it will be what you want will be the sacrifice. And if you want to stay in the light, you got to be able to stay in the light and not go back and forth. God hates that when you go back and forth. He'd rather you be, super focused and get to the goal rather than to be lukewarm, right? Or he rather you be in the spirit rather than the natural, right? And he hates when you go back to the natural, from the spirit to the natural, from the spirit to the natural. And don't get me wrong, I was once that person, right? But he hates that, right? And it's a sense of regret, and it's like a regret, is depression, is anger, it's all of that stuff when you go back and forth. And it's ultimately the regret that you feel the most, right? But with the strength and power of God, you can get through it, right? With the strength and power of God, you can get through it. And the light is way more better than the dark, right? Who? Why wouldn't you want the light rather than the dark? The dark is shallow waters. The light is the deep waters, is the abundant waters where God is. But the dark is shallow waters. It's low hanging fruit. It doesn't even produce fruit, right? When you're in the dark, right? So I just want to take a few minutes and pray with you guys and ask that God could transform your life and ultimately keep you in the light instead of going back and forth, and to choose to stay in the light because that's where you get all the blessings, right, God? And enlighten them. That's where they get all the blessings, the favor, and you can bless their life if they're being one-minded and also staying truthful to the light, staying true to being in the light, staying true to staying close to you, no matter what trials and tribulations happen to them. And the ultimate test is you testing them to build their character to see if they're worthy of the kingdom, right? If if they're not worthy of the kingdom, how they're going to get the blessing? If they don't stay with the new version of who you created them to be, how are they going to get the blessing that lies before them, right? And we know, God, that you could only bless the new version of us and not the old version of us. So thank you for this wisdom and help us to transform and push our lives to bigger and better things and help us to grow and expand and be a transformation to others and help other people grow. Let's go. Let's become 1% better. It's your boy, Crazy Faith to God in the building. Happy Friday. Let's go.